Hello everyone and welcome to my final project for the course AAS 3460 Black Men and Masculinities. It's an online course at Ohio University in the 2014 summer session 2, and the instructor for this course is Professor Aretina Hamilton. And of course my name is Campbell Bailey. So let's get started. Well, first, here's my virtual table of contents. I'll first discuss my expectations for the course, what I really thought I was going to see when I first came into the course, like readings or concepts that we were going to discuss. Then I'll go into my main takeaways. Another term to rephrase that would probably be, the things I'll remember 10 years, 20 years from now about this course. There was three big things that I really enjoyed. And then I'll go into what I liked. This will be more of like a logistic area of the presentation, logistical likes that I had with the course, like the syllabus and the way the course was handled. Then I'll go into a couple constructive course criticisms. I really enjoyed the course mostly. There are definitely a few things that small changes that could be made, so I'll definitely voice those for the benefit of students and instructor. Then I'll go into a short content analysis of the show The Strain, which is on FX. It's in its 5th episode right now. It's a vampire show. It's really good. I highly recommend it. But it definitely has some concepts that we've discussed in this class relating to the discipline of African American Studies. So I want to talk about that. And then I will also want to go into a short analysis of the Eric Garber murder, which happened in New York City at the hands of NYPD. That also reflects heavily some concepts that we discussed this semester. So my first slide is here. Some of my expectations of the course. First, I really expected us to study how black men perceive themselves, which we absolutely did. We learned about how the music and the media of our society influences black masculinity. So the rap music of 50 Cent definitely displays a different type of masculinity than does the music of Prince, who's a little bit, obviously a little bit more feminine, a little bit more illegible than 50 Cent. I did not expect to learn about how others perceive black men. So the rest of America, specifically patriarchal white men or white women, how we look, me being Caucasian, how we look at black men through the eyes of the media or controlling images on our television screens. I thought that was that was a very cool part of the course. Another expectation I had was how gender and class influence black masculinity. This expectation was definitely met. We learned about how gender influences black masculinity because post-slavery, black men kind of took that phallocentric patriarchal attitude towards women. They were very dominating over women, and they are very they persecuted men who were gay or bisexual or too feminine, claiming that it stripped them of their black masculinity. And class definitely influences black masculinity. The masculinity of 50 Cent is different from Jay-Z because Jay-Z dresses and acts like a more upper class, almost like a white man, and then 50 Cent is obviously this very thugged out gangster rap artist. So they both their class kind of, or at least their perception of class, definitely influences their masculinity differently. But I also did not expect to learn how strongly sexuality is a major component, specifically sexuality of the man. So like the movie Holiday Heart, Holiday is a gay black man who's also a drag queen. He is stripped of his masculinity in that film. People don't think he can protect himself or take care of others. And like the article from Marlon T. Riggs, where he presents that concept of Negro faggotry, I thought that was very interesting. I had another big expectation. I thought we were going to discuss social justice initiatives or policy implications. These really were not discussed in the course, and I think that's because we really focused simply on that black masculinity in the media, in different readings, in different texts and music. We really didn't delve into, the law or what the law says about black men, um, anything like that. And I think that's just because I've taken a lot of courses dealing with social justice, like politics of law or injustice in the United States. I've taken those courses where we've discussed policy implications. So that really didn't have that big of an impact on me. Um, the last expectation I had was that we were going to discuss the construction of black masculinity post-slavery, because I know that things really changed in the Reconstruction period, um, which I discussed above. Just that concept of black men taking on that patriarchal role, and kind of being very violent and dominating against women. I didn't expect to read about how strongly aggression and violence are important aspects of this black masculinity. Those really played a big part in present day legibility. Um, Black men being violent and aggressive. If they're not, they're seen as a pussy and a sissy. Uh, I didn't expect that at all, and it really surprised me. And overall, the course really surprised me. With very interesting, engaging material, all my expectations were met and definitely exceeded. So now I'll move into the main takeaways that I had from the course, or the things that I will definitely remember 20 years from now. Part one here is that concept of the socialization process of the black male adolescent. So we have the case of, Trayvon Martin and Emmett Till. Both were young, very young black boys. I believe Emmett was 14. I think Trayvon was 16 or 17. Correct me if I'm wrong. They were both killed, at the hands of adult men, and they were both treated as adults for their actions. Emmett violated a social code, or I'm sorry, a social norm by whistling at a white woman. Uh, Normally for a white boy to do that, probably just get a slap on the wrist, but Emmett was brutally tortured and killed. Same way, Trayvon, he, violated that concept of the politics of responsibility. He was walking around with his hood up at night in the rain in a very affluent neighborhood of Florida near his hometown, and he was also killed. We don't really know exactly what happened, but words were exchanged between him and a neighborhood watchman named George Zimmerman, and a fight ensued, and he was eventually shot, even though he was just a young boy and really shouldn't have been regarded as responsible, as fully responsible for his actions. But because of his skin color, he had to grow up much faster. And this is also showed in the story that Lawrence Otis Graham tells about being followed in a candy store by the manager, even though he was just a young boy, young black boy, being followed in a candy store because he was seen as threatening, as dangerous, even though he was a child. People perceived that he was going to steal something. So he as well, had to be brought up much quicker than the normal child in America. Same way with Tunette Powell's sons. We had a reading about this. Her two black children have been suspended 8 times between the two of them, and she figured out that it was for activities that white children would engage in, but would just get a simple slap on the wrist for. But since her children were black, they were treated as more responsible for their actions, even though I believe they're only like 8 years old and 4 years old. They were treated as much more responsible, and they were given legit suspensions from school. Lastly, we have the sad case of Michael Brown, who was recently killed in Missouri. Only a mere 18 years old. He was about to go to college. He was with a friend walking in broad daylight, stopped by a police officer. We're not exactly sure what happened yet, but a witness said he stood there with his hands up and was shot. So he was a young man, shot by a police officer, possibly could have exchanged words with the police officer, possibly a scuffle could have happened, but nonetheless, he was a young black man, and he was shot twice, for actions that normally for a white man, for a young white man, be that a young white man wouldn't have been shot twice for the actions that Michael Brown engaged in. So all 5 of these are great examples of the socialization process of the black male adolescent. It's definitely something that I enjoyed in this course. A second main takeaway would be this concept of black male geographies. This was probably my favorite part of the course and the most interesting. It was brought up in the example of Graham, Lawrence Otis Graham at the country club with his brother. They jumped in a pool at a very affluent country club, and all of the white kids got out of the pool. All their parents got them out as well. So these two black boys were out of their location. They were out of their geographical normal location and were seen as threatening. They were perceived as dangerous because they were in the wrong location. They violated those social norms. The same thing was seen with Questlove when he was in the elevator of his apartment building. Um, he's a very well-known, wealthy, successful musician, but because he was in the elevator of a very predominantly white apartment building, he was perceived by a white woman to be dangerous and threatening, and she wouldn't tell him what floor she lived on because she was afraid of him. So he was, as a big black man, which Questlove is, he was seen as, you know, he was out of place, and therefore was perceived as more dangerous than the normal person would be in America. The same thing with Brent Staples, a black man. When he travels in the subway at night, he can sense that people perceive him as dangerous and threatening. And I thought it was very interesting how he would often whistle Beethoven or other classical tunes to ease the tension, and how he actually said it would legit ease the tension because people would see him maybe as more white than he actually is, and would be more comfortable in his presence if he was whistling these educated classical songs. And then lastly, we have this phrase called the NIW, which is specifically attributed to my hometown of Westlake, Ohio, which is in the picture down there. Westlake, Ohio is a very affluent suburb of Cleveland. It's about 12 miles west of downtown. I think about 1.5% of the population is black. Most of the population is Caucasian. So when this phrase of NIW, which means nigger in Westlake, is used, not predominantly in the city, but a few people I've heard use it, basically refers to a black guy walking around in Westlake. He's very out of place. He's out of his geographical location that he should be, and people don't expect a black man to be in Westlake. So they use this phrase to refer to that, and it really reflects the concept of black male geographies, and it really shows a personal experience I've had with the concept. My last takeaway here would be the concept of legible and illegible black masculinities, specifically within the movie of Holiday Heart. We have two pictures here from the movie, and there's that heavy contrast between the characters of Holiday and Ricky. Holiday is, even though he's this big, muscular, deep-throated black man, he's gay, and he's a drag queen, and he dresses very feminine and acts very feminine. So in the movie, he's stripped of his masculinity by the other characters. He's looked at as being weak and not able to protect himself, not able to raise Nikki, not able to take care of Nikki and Wanda, not able to provide for them. And in the movie, he's completely stripped of his status as a black man, and he's demoted to that role that Marlon T. Riggs calls Negro faggotry. I really saw that prevalent in the movie. And he has this direct contrast between a very legible black man who played by this actor in this picture here. This isn't a picture from the movie. This is a face shot of him. I couldn't find a picture of him from the movie, but the character's name is Ricky. He's a drug-dealing pimp who dominates women. You see him hitting Wanda in the movie. You see him try to steal the bike in the last scene. He eventually kills Wanda. He kind of personifies everything that a legible black man would have. He's aggressive, intimidating, violent, criminal, and very phallocentric and very patriarchal. So I love that contrast between Holiday and Ricky. Holiday being the illegible gay black man, and Ricky being the legible gangster. I thought that was a great assignment. It really displayed this concept, and it's definitely something I'll remember for years to come. So I'll quickly talk about here what I liked about the course logistically. I thought it was very intellectually challenging. For example, the consistent assignments that applied the material we learned in the class. Some online courses I've taken I don't think the assignments applied the material enough, and I really think the weekly essays and discussion postings and things of that nature really helped me to record the material, in my brain and really help remember it. I really also liked the use of the multimedia sources. I've seen online lectures before, but I thought these were very engaging. I took notes and was very interested in them. And I also liked using songs as literature. I think that was a great component of the course, like Michael Jackson's Bad Bear and Prince's Sign of Times. I thought it was very interesting and also very important that the instructor was willing to meet online or in person. We had 2 Google Hangouts over the course of the semester, which helped a lot. And then also, she was very willing to meet on campus, which we did at one point because I had some questions I needed to ask in person. And lastly, there was great present-day application of the material. So we're learning all this stuff in the class, but it really doesn't mean anything if we can't go out into the world and apply it. And that's exactly what we did in the last week. We applied everything we'd learned to the case of Michael Brown being shot in Missouri, and I thought that was a great conclusion to the course, and I thought it was a great way to show that the information we learned can be applied to any situation involving a black man. So here are just some short constructive course criticisms. I really didn't have any, I had no problems with the course, any big problems. I just had a few small adjustments that I would like to voice for the benefit of instructor and student. I thought the syllabus could have been more concrete, unchanging schedule. That's just what I'm used to with online courses. The ones I've taken before have been very strict to the syllabus, and of course this one, the syllabus kind of changed almost every week. I would have liked to see it change less. I would have also liked to have the ability to work ahead, like posting the readings and the assignments in advance. I would usually go online on Sunday before the week started to get a head start on the reading. And I couldn't really do that because sometimes the reading was posted on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and I would have to wait until then to do it. But this was specific to me because I had two 5-day vacations during the second half of the summer. So on a normal schedule, it wouldn't have been a problem, but for me, it was just a little bit stressful. And lastly, I think there could have been more discussion of the readings during online lectures. This could have been solved by scheduling a Google Hangout with the instructor, of course, to answer questions. I didn't necessarily need that. I just thought, as something I could talk about here, I would have liked to seen a little bit more discussion of the readings in the online lectures, maybe a slide or two for each reading. So here I'm going to do a quick content analysis of the show The Strain on FX. It's a vampire show about a virus that is let loose in Manhattan. It's an extremely entertaining show. It's a big spin on the normal vampire saga in America. I highly recommend it. And the majority, almost all of the characters in this show are white men or white women. And because of my awareness in the discipline of African American studies and sociology, I was able to pick up on this and see the concepts of legibility and illegibility in this show. So here's a screenshot that I took off my laptop. I couldn't find a picture on Google Images of this scene, so I had to take it from the episode. These are 4 black men sitting around a table. They're really the first black characters in the show that we see. This is like 5 episodes into the show. There might have been, African Americans in a couple of the scenes, but these are the first big characters, and they're very legible black characters in this show. Basically, what this scene comprises of: 2 characters in the show need to sell a stolen vehicle that they picked up at a parking garage, and they go to this garage with these 4 black men who pawn stolen cars. So looking at this scene, looking at the setting of the scene as well as just why they're actually there, these 4 black men are very legible characters. They're criminals, so because they're buying stolen vehicles and selling them, obviously for a higher price. They're acting very deviant. That you can see they're drinking whiskey. They're located in a shady area of New York. They're in this kind of like low-income, sketchy-looking garage. And then in the scene, they're very tough and intimidating and aggressive, and they even threaten with violence to the two guys who are trying to sell the car. So overall, their performance of masculinity is very legible because they're criminal, because they're intimidating, because they're violent. And I really picked up on that, and I really thought it'd be cool to discuss that in this presentation. So lastly, I want to do a quick analysis of the Eric Garber murder at the hands of the NYPD. Basically, Eric Garber was a middle-aged black man, who's a father of a couple children, who was standing on the sidewalk in Long Island, Staten Island, I believe. And then he was eventually put in a chokehold by police officers, and because of an asthma condition he had, he died there on the sidewalk while they were constricting him. And this scene, this experience of Eric Garber really reflects the concept of black male geographies, because he was a black man and he was standing on a sidewalk minding his own business. But as a black man standing on a sidewalk in America, you can never really mind your own business. People will always perceive you're there to sell drugs, sell something illegal, you know, steal a car, or do something deviant. And that's really what the police thought he was doing. Eric Garber was known for selling untaxed cigarettes, which is a completely minor offense in the eyes of the law. But because he was known for that, he was treated as a legit threat, and he was perceived as very dangerous and was dealt with using extreme measures of force because he was a black man on this sidewalk and because he was known to engage in very, very, very low-level criminal behavior. I'm talking like, not even a minor misdemeanor. This is like for a normal white man who would sell untaxed cigarettes, he would either get a verbal warning or perhaps like a $25 ticket. But Eric Garber was killed for doing this. And I just think this is a great example of the concept of black male geographies, because he was seen as a threat and was perceived as a threat simply because of his location and simply because of his skin color. So in conclusion, I just want to state that I really thoroughly enjoyed this course. I learned a lot about African American studies, about black masculinities. It was a great change from the normal sociological views that I usually study, because I am a social crim major. And I really am excited to take this knowledge into the criminal justice system, specifically the area of probation and parole, and really hopefully make a positive impact in our country using this knowledge. And I'm really excited to graduate this spring and just to get out in the real world and see applications of this and see examples of this, and hopefully make a positive impact. So thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my presentation. My name is Campbell Bailey, and yeah, have a great day.